happen, we will at least be electrified when it comes to transport. Today, the possibility of electric vehicles is not very distant possibility. It's a question of when. Now, overlay that with the possibility of drones transporting people, and if I were to be a strategist in the electric car industry, I would be really worried, thinking that it's so hard just to get this industry going with all the support from the government. What if the drones come along and become real, let's say in about 20 to 30 years' time? Given the sort of acceleration there is in technology, how long will the industry last? It just reinforces the possibility that life will be very different. It will be very possible for us to be in two places at one time. And this is the magic of augmented reality. I could be sitting in my office and yet be here in front of you. The only thing you won't be able to do is touch me. But you will see me in a form in which I will be present here on stage and not on the screen. And this is again something that is demonstrated over and over again at very many conferences and places around the world. This is all very crazy. Clearly it's crazy, and you must be telling yourself, are you sure this is for real? Because I do too. And the thing is, we have to prepare for this now. When you can't even fathom how all this is going to become real, how do you prepare for it? Well, at a very mundane level, let me tell you what's going on at Mahindra to sort of deal with a reality which could have this kind of a future, or a future that could have this kind of a reality. This is the sort of framework we have to understand the concept of sustainability. For us, sustainability goes way beyond just the earth. In fact, rejuvenating the planet or rejuvenating the environment is one pillar in the entire framework. For a corporation, looking ahead, one has to wonder, where are the future revenues going to come from? Are they going to come from the conventional businesses, or will they come from new businesses? Will our automotive business exist at all? Will it go completely electric? Or will drones make us take another step beyond electric, maybe in another 10 years' time? These are very real questions, and these are questions one grapples with when you think of sustainability from the perspective of a corporation. And that is what led us to the definition which is there on the roof of the house, a definition for sustainability, which we think is probably a holistic definition which a corporation can take action and which can lead to sustainability of businesses and sustainability of the planet at the same time. We'll look at a few of the actions that we've taken which are rooted in this framework going forward. So let's just take a look at enabling stakeholders to rise. So one of the key things is, within the corporation, if we want to have a successful, enduring business, it is critical to ensure that there is great diversity, that people enjoy the place that they work in, that they can innovate, and they can address the sort of a new world that one knows we are going to see in the next decade or two. So being a part of the Great Place to Work, having programs like the Women's Leaders Program, crucial programs for us. This is work outside the boundaries of the corporation, because this conversation on sustainability, one has to look at it in perspective. It is not to say that 25 years ago, when there was no word called sustainability, corporations were not trying to be sustainable. Of course they were. They were trying to be sustainable in the ways in which they thought sustainability would happen. But where did we end up? We ended up with a situation where the resources of the earth were proving to be limited at the rate at which we were using it. So the new concept of sustainability still had all the original concepts, which included strategic thinking, planning, HR, strategy, all of it, but you couldn't do it by harming the environment. Therefore, you had to rejuvenate the environment, and you couldn't do it by exploiting the community. So you had to enable stakeholders to rise. And in a country like ours, it is extremely critical to make a contribution beyond the boundaries of the corporation for the sustenance of the country at one level, but to be able to create a workforce which is ready to then come and work in corporations. So fostering inclusive development, extremely crucial. And a couple of initiatives mentioned here, one in the area of health, the Lifeline Express, which is a hospital on wheels through which more than 1 lakh people have been treated, mostly for vision and a few other things. And the other one, which is education for the girl child, where some 3 lakh children, 3 lakh underprivileged girl children are provided education. I understand in this program, about 30,000 have now graduated from class 10. One of the things we say in the company is what the corporation has to do, it will do. How do you make sustainability personal? And this year, on World Environment Day, in partnership with EESL, Saurabh is not here now to take the credit for all the good work that he's done. In partnership with EESL, 20,000 of my colleagues adopted LED lights. The goal is to get all 200,000 to adopt LED lights, but this was the first start and we hit 10% straight away. And then, of course, a little program which has started, which even though we are an automotive company, we're quite happy to have employees cycling to work, if it is possible, in the locations where it is possible at this point in time. And then we come to rejuvenating the environment. Our story is definitely not as impressive as the story Sanjeev shared with you about ITC, but I must say that we're taking very large steps in the right direction. We were the first company in the world to commit to doubling our energy productivity. That is, doubling output using the same amount of energy. And we are on course to achieve that about 5 or 7 years ahead of the target. In renewable energy, we've only done about 6% of our energy consumption is renewable. However, we are looking forward to setting a path to achieving 100% renewable energy in the near future. We are again the first Indian company to have a carbon price where we've committed to spend $10 per ton of carbon emitted on technologies that help reduce emissions or help adopt renewable energy. So those are the two ways in which we are using our carbon price. We are also a water positive company, thanks in part to the integrated watershed development programs that we do and the micro irrigation business that we have. So both of these help us conserve more water than we consume, but to be fair, the industries we are in are not heavily water intensive anyway. And having implemented some of these watershed development programs, I realized that it's not frightfully difficult for a corporation to become water positive through an offset methodology. The real thing lies in how do you reduce the water intensity of manufacturing. And today, the vehicles that we make use about 30% less water and 35% less energy than they did about 5 years ago to get made. That's where the real story lies within the corporation. The first Indian factory to get certified as a zero waste to landfill factory is a Mahindra factory, and we're extremely proud of this. We are hoping that we will be able to make many more of our factories zero waste to landfill. I don't have the time to even explain how big this is and why being zero waste to landfill is so very crucial. The amount of land that there is in landfills around the country and how easy it is to actually reduce that land by at least 83% to 84%. And I'm saying at least 83 to 84 because studies show that 59% of the landfill is pure energy. And that can be harnessed and you can actually use it. And another 24% is completely recyclable. So there is no reason for 83% of the landfill to exist. That leaves another 17. So the least we could do is try and see if the locations that we have within the group can start moving towards becoming zero waste to landfill, where nothing from a Mahindra location goes to landfill at all. Biodiversity plays a very interesting role in all of this. Um, One always asks the question that what is the business benefit of putting trees? We know the social benefit, we know the environmental benefit. Well, we discovered an interesting one. We have a factory in Igatpuri which makes engines, which today is one of the greenest plants that we have, extensive program in biodiversity. Once we put those trees in place and did all the landscaping, the dust levels went down by 75%, and this then led to reduction in defects in the engines made at that plant. Before we did this work, we would have never guessed that this was likely to be a result. But if one steps back and thinks, and those of you who are not from India and those of you who've been outside India, especially to the Western world, you will know that there is almost no non-landscaped land. And if you lived there, you don't have to do jhadu pocha every day. There is no dust in the house. You can live with carpets which can be cleaned once a week. And you're not dealing with dust. The paint on your car doesn't get spoiled because it's not getting hit by dust all the time. Devices last much longer and the quality of life is a whole lot better. You would not have Delhi-like situations in cities like that. And probably the landscaping that is done and the money that is spent in keeping those places, the landscape proper, is worth it, worth its weight in gold and in health, really. In Mahindra, we actually owe a debt of gratitude that the Western world chooses to be that way, because we sell something like 25,000 tractors in the United States, which are solely used to cut grass. And it's not something we use tractors here in India for, but it's certainly used in the US for that reason. To build enduring business, we obviously have to look at the future. And here are some businesses that we are in today. We are in solar power, which is Mahindra Sustain. Mahindra Life Spaces builds only green buildings. And in case you didn't know, you're sitting in a LEED Platinum building right now for this conference. Sanjeev's company ITC builds only LEED Platinum hotels, so that's a wonderful thing. As you know, the only electric car manufacturing in the country is done by us. We've got an electric scooter, and of course there is the ride-sharing business which we are now a part of along with Ola. So these are all businesses which have their roots in climate change, and we are hoping that we will be able, through business, to address climate change even more strongly in the future. There are a whole lot of risks that are emanating because of climate change to the business. We've spent time in trying to identify what these risks could possibly be so that we could take care of them in the future. And of course, you cannot possibly practice sustainability without looking at the supply chain. So therefore, we've looked at supply chain, and we want them to adopt the energy practices that we've adopted ourselves within the factory. And we've set up a sort of a school in Pune where members of the supply chain can send their people to get trained. Right across, we've been embracing technology and innovation, mostly in the use of, looking at the energy space, but even otherwise. And there are some examples here on this slide for you. Another interesting thing is how all this plays off on the brand. So there are a lot of cultural events that we do, and when we look at, not only look at the energy consumed in these cultural events and how you can do it better, but the last blues event that we did in Bombay, the annual Mahindra Blues event, this was certified as a platinum level green event by the Yale University. We are looking forward to make the next festival in Varanasi, which is dedicated to Kabir, another green event, maybe certified by Yale University. And all this, we believe, will help us rise for good. You heard today that life will be different. You've heard in how many ways it's going to be different. And there are corporations like ITC and us who are trying to be ready for this different world. It's not just the two of us, there are many others who are trying to be ready. General Motors has committed to 100% renewable energy. There are many other companies in the country who are taking extremely strong steps, which is why today India is considered a forerunner in the fight for climate change, and we are glad to be a part of it. Thank you very much.
That was indeed a very, very compelling presentation. It's most wonderful. Thank you very much, Anirban. Sorry, we have taken little over half an hour than the scheduled time. May I now request Mr. Arun Mukherjee to propose a formal vote of thanks and as a token of appreciation, hand over mementos to our distinguished speakers.
It is my great pleasure to deliver the formal vote of thanks of the 10th edition of the Environment and Energy Conclave of the Bengal Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We have been blessed with the august presence of the stalwarts among energy leaders in this conclave. We would like to express our sincere thanks to all those who have graced this different edition of this conclave, supported us and joined us in this endeavor. Our special thanks to Sri P.S. Bhattacharya and Dr. Ajay Mathur. We cannot imagine this conclave without you, and possibly in future we shall be expecting you always with us. Yeah. Thank you very much. Mr. Saurabh Kumar has especially flown in for this conclave only for few hours. We are indeed overwhelmed. His Excellency Sri Upendra Tripathi, Sri Girish B. Pradhan, Mr. Frank Joseph Safosen, Mr. Anirban Ghosh, we are honored to have you with us. We do hope that we will have many occasions like this in the coming days where we shall be having you with us. Our very own Mr. Sanjeev Bejbarua, thank you very much for joining us and sharing an inspiring narration. Before we conclude this evening, we have a pleasant task to perform. May I? Yeah,
Mr. Ghosh. Dr. Mathur. Mr. Pradhan. Mr. Safosen. Mr. Bhattacharya. Mr. Bejbarua. We would also request Dr. Asadi and Dr. Dev, you could please come to the dais. Thank you all. We are concluding today's program, but we will meet again tomorrow. The program will commence at 10:30 and we'll start the registration at 9:30. See you all tomorrow. Thank you.